Hello, my name is Sebastián Morera and my exposition partners are Geraldine and Joanna. And our paper is a compiler-based approach to schema-specific XML parsing.
XML is a software and hardware independent tool. It was designed to store and transport data. It's just information grabbed in tags. XML is a markup language much like HTML. The XML language has predefined tags. The tags in this example, like to and from, aren't defined for any XML standard. These tags are defined for the author of the XML document. There are concerns about its performance, especially for middleware. One promising technique is creating parsers specific to a schema, which we call schema-specific parsing. This paper contributes a compiler-based approach for schema-specific parsing that we believe provides a flexible framework for implementing high-performance schema-specific parsers.
An XML schema is basically a set of predefined rules that describe a class of XML documents. A schema defines the elements that can appear in a XML document, as well as the attributes that can be associated with them. It also defines structural information such as enumerating the descendants of an element, the sequence in which they can appear, their types. A scheme allows you to specify that the correct format of XML document. XML schemes therefore have two fundamental tasks. First, publish how to build correct XML documents. Second, allow the validation of a document according to a particular scheme. It is then spoken that the XML document is valid with respect to a schema, which should not be confused with being well-formed.
XML documents are general and can be arbitrarily structured. Some way to describe the set of acceptable XML documents facilitate the development of XML-based systems.
These descriptions are generally known as schemas. An XML document that belongs in the set described by the schema is known as an instance of the schema.
There are a number of standards for XML schema, including DTD and ReLAX-NG, but we have initially chosen to focus on XML schema.
DTD is a description of the structure and syntax of an XML document, and ReLAX-NG is a schema language for XML. A schema can contain types that are self-referential. For example, the following schema fragment defines a recursive type named recursive and one element named nested of type recursive. The choice element specifies that valid content is either of the two contained elements. The base element is the base case of the recursion and terminates the nesting. The nested element is recursive. A type can constrain a number of times a contained element can occur. These are known as occurrence constraints. For example, the following schema fragment indicates that the item element may appear between 2 to 5 times within the type. The maximum number of times an item can appear is determined by the value of the attribute must occurs in its declaration. This value can be a positive integer such as 45 or the term unbounded to indicate that there is no maximum number of occurrences. The default value of both attributes, the min course and the mass occurs, is 1. When an element as item is declared without an attribute mass occur, the element cannot appear more than once.
The processing of XML in an application can be divided into three stages. The first one is well-formed. This stage is syntactic and addresses whether or not the document is well-formed XML. The second one is validity. This stage addresses whether or not the structure is a valid instance of a given scheme. And the last one is application. In this stage, the application actually uses the data in the XML. This is example of XML document versus scheme XML. In the well-formed code, we have an XML document that has a root element biblioteca, and this has child elements called libro, título, autor, año, and editorial, with their respective attributes. Here you can reflect a well-formed document in this structure with labels that they have start and end. And the validity code, we have an XML scheme that has a prefix XS colon. It is used to define namespace declared. The element biblioteca is complex type because it contains attributes and element son. The element sequence defines a sequence order that as 1. The element libro can occur once or indefinitely and is also of complex type because it contains the elements título, autor, año, and editorial, and these are of simple type signs. They are only declared by attributes of type string and can be optional due to their occurrences. The objective of this paper is to demonstrate that you can merge two stages of XML processing in an application, that are the first and the second, well-formed and validity. But usually to general XML parser passes invalidated XML to the application, which then implicitly validates it by error checking and possibly exception handling. We output executable code that simultaneously parses and validates the XML. The simultaneous parsing and validation merges the lexical, syntactic, and scheme aspects of XML processing into a single code layer, which tends to improve locality and CPU register information. So this architecture divides the compilation process into a front end and back end, with an intermediate representation is used in between. This allows different front ends to work with different back ends. Round shapes represent process, while rectangular shapes represent data. The generalized automata. This framework are used a high-level abstraction for schema validations and is defined in a tuple. Q, U, transition function, predicates a start state, initial configuration, and final state. Predicates. Each predicate reads from a set of 0 or more variables, which is called the reading set. Actions. Each action is written in a set of 0 or more variables, which is called the reading set. Each transition can take one or more variables, while a file automata can only take one. Two transitions enabled by a configuration may have different actions, and the different actions change the configuration in different ways. The generalized automata fragment on the left is translated to the code on the right. If the variable is A, the transition is validated and the action is performed. If The variable is B, another transition is validated, and another action is performed.
The validation was performed through the reader interface. At code was compilation with the C and C++. Compilation version 5.3. These schemas describe second of elements of n maximum occurrence. Each element has one attribute and two possible subelementos. Element sub 1 sub 2 element sub 1 string element sub 2 string and attribute. SSP it is the fundamental to carry out the programmation public median of the website. XPath it is XML 10 process library oriented to string and written in programmation language C. Left XML this is a code library to any XML document was configured with no tester option. The validation was performed through the read interface. GSOAP was configured with no tester option. At code was compilation with C and C++. Compilation version 5.3. Each vertex is represented by a body of code. Each transition consists of one if statement followed by the action with the above of the if statement. The results show that GSOAP and left XML are faster than SSP and SPAT and answer.
Conclusion and future work.
Furthermore, we display the supported subset of XML schema and investigation of the width of bad endings. For larger schema, decision might be used to improve code localization to avoid instruct case tranches.
The generated parser is executed natively by the hardware rather than interpreted as in some other validation approaches. Results suggest that our approach to CCP schema-specific parsing is significantly faster than non-schema-specific parsers. For further design and development of an appropriate user API is also required. The interface should balance efficiency against usability.